Can't even get a real job. My sister laughed at Sunday dinner. Monday morning, she walked into her dream interview. I sat behind the CEO's desk, her resume in my hands. So, tell me why you're qualified to work for the company I built. I had just sat down with my plate when Dana launched into her latest headline. I got an interview at Ridge & Bailey, she said, dropping her fork like it was breaking news. Senior project liaison. They reached out to me directly. Our mom's hands flew up like she'd won the lottery. Now, that's a real job. I barely had time to lift my water glass before the attention swerved to me. Well, Frank, when are you going to get serious? Mom asked like I'd been killing time for the past decade. I didn't answer, I just cut into my chicken. Dad jumped in, of course, you're not getting any younger, son. Time to stop with that handyman side hustle. Dana grinned across the table. It's cute though, fixing up basements and all. She popped a bite of mashed potatoes like she hadn't just spit in my face. I looked at her, looked at all of them. Cute side hustle. That side hustle was a general contracting company with 5 active sites, 3 full crews, and 7-figure revenue. But why correct them? They never listened. Dana flipped her hair. It's a 6-figure base, 1.80K. That's just salary. And get this, they said the CEO specifically requested me. I smiled a little, just enough for myself. They didn't know. Of course, they didn't. They didn't know that 4 years ago, I acquired Ridge & Bailey. That behind the scenes, I ran it under my holding company, F.L. Mitchell Contracting Holdings. That the CEO was me. The room buzzed with praise for Dana. Mom started talking about how proud she was. Dad called her executive material. I took another bite, chewed slow, swallowed. I've got an early meeting tomorrow, I said, standing up and grabbing my plate. Dana snorted. Right, got an emergency water heater to patch up. They all laughed. My own parents laughed. I didn't say another word. Just put my plate in the sink and walked out. They could have their little dinner party. Tomorrow, I'd be waiting for Dana in the corner office of the company she thought was about to change her life. I drove home with the windows down, letting the cold October air keep me sharp. Their laughter still rang in my ears, like I hadn't built every inch of the life I was driving back to. The house sat just outside of Allentown. 3 stories, full stone front, wraparound porch. When I bought it, the place was rotting, practically condemned. Took me a year to strip it down and rebuild it. Every beam, every tile, every square inch of trim, I did with my own 2 hands. No bank loan, no partners, just grit and time. I pulled into the driveway, headlights flashing against the garage door. Inside, the silence felt clean. No noise, no judgment, just the hum of what I'd earned. 12 years ago, I walked out of trade school with a beat-up van, a set of tools, and a stack of flyers I printed at Staples. Started out fixing drywall and replacing toilets in row homes. Word got around. Landlords started calling. Then came full kitchen remodels, bath builds, patios, deck teardown. I learned fast, hired smart, and treated every job like it mattered. Meanwhile, Dana was off in some air-conditioned office talking about brand identity and market synergy. Her degree was from a state school, same as mine, but hers came with a cubicle and a title, so everyone acted like she was royalty. She'd laugh when I showed up to family stuff and work boots. Still doing house calls, she'd ask, and my parents just nodded, like they were sorry for me. But 5 years ago, things changed. Ridge & Bailey hit a wall. Bad management, bloated costs, almost bankrupt. I saw the filings before they went public, through a chain of shell companies. I picked it up cheap, reorganized, rehired, cleaned house. I never slapped my name on the front door. I branded everything under Mitchell Contracting Holdings, named after my grandfather, Frederick L. Mitchell. To the outside world, he was the new boss. People assumed he was some old-school executive. In truth, I was the only person who ever used that name. That's how I kept it quiet. That's how I stayed in the shadows. Back then, I didn't want recognition. I just wanted to build something that could outlive the noise. I walked into my office at the back of the house and flipped open the laptop. Notifications pinged in. Project updates, crew schedules, vendor payments, the usual. Then I saw it. A forwarded email from HR. Subject line, application. Dana L. Carter. Attached was her resume, cover letter, and 1 bright yellow sticky note stuck dead center on the scanned file. Nepotism risk. Your call, boss. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her file like it might catch fire. Let her brag about her base salary and the personal invitation from the CEO. She'd get her meeting. On time, in my office, under my roof. And this time, I'd be the one asking the questions. I opened the laptop again and typed the email without hesitation. Scheduled Dana Carter's interview for Monday at 9 a.m. with the CEO. Instruct reception to have her wait 30 minutes before sending her up. Let her stew. I copied Kelly, my executive assistant. Sharp, no nonsense, and loyal as heck. I sent her a separate message right after. Pulled Dana Carter's full file. I want every bullet point verified quietly. She replied in under a minute. Already on it. Then I called security. Yeah, I need full lobby and elevator footage saved for Monday morning. from 8.30 to 9.30, audio to understood. Mr. Mitchell, I sat there for a second, tapping the desk with my thumb. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't setting her up for failure. I was just done letting people walk into rooms, thinking they were better than me. Thanksgiving, 3 years ago, flashed in my mind. My girlfriend at the time, Renee, brought sweet potato pie to dinner. Dana took one bite, looked her up and down, and said, "Oh, you bake. That's adorable. I mean, it's clear why you're here." I remember Renee's face, embarrassed, hurt. She never came to another holiday. Last Christmas, my parents sent out a family newsletter, a full page about Dana's promotion and new condo. Not one mention of my company opening to regional offices or winning the city contract for the high-rise downtown. My name wasn't even in it. They've always seen me as the guy with drywall dust on his jeans. Never mind the payroll I cover, the pensions I fund, the buildings that wouldn't exist if I hadn't picked up a hammer 12 years ago. Kelly buzzed my phone around 10. "Hey, got some notes." I put her on speaker. "She's claiming lead strategist for that Brooksend campaign, the one that tanked." "Yeah, I remember." I said, "Well, according to our research, she publicly distanced herself from it on social media the week after it flopped. Now she's calling it a win." I let out a quiet laugh. Of course she was. She also lists project lead on the Danforth merger prep. But the internal roster from that firm has her as an admin-level coordinator support role. Inflated titles? I asked. Big time. Anything disqualifying. Not criminal, she said, but unethical for someone applying to an executive track. Definitely not Bailey material. "Thanks, Kel. Want me in the room Monday?" "No, I'll handle this myself." I closed the file and shut the laptop. Didn't feel angry, didn't feel smug, just ready. They wanted to see me as less. That was fine. I'd stop fighting it. Let them talk. Let them laugh. But come Monday, Dana was going to sit across from the CEO. She swore invited her, and realized she'd never once looked her own brother in the eye. I went upstairs, took a hot shower, and climbed into bed. Slept through the night with no trouble. Tomorrow, I do what I always did, show up prepared. Only this time, the job site was personal. Monday morning, I pulled into Ridge and Bailey's private garage before sunrise. I like getting in while the city's still half asleep. No noise, no posturing, just steel and concrete waiting to be shaped. The elevator took me straight to the penthouse floor. Frosted glass, brushed steel, panoramic windows facing the skyline. No one imagined a contractor sitting here, but that's what made it work. Kelly met me at the door with a coffee and a small smirk. "She's here," she said, holding up her phone. "Arrived at 8.30. Been loud ever since." "Loud how?" Kelly tapped her screen. Told reception she was expecting an executive welcome. Asked why no one brought her coffee. Also said, quote, "It's cute how these girls dress up like professionals. Jesus. She thinks she's meeting a 60-year-old man in a pinstriped suit." I smiled, cracked my neck, and walked into my office. At exactly 9 a.m., my door opened. She strutted in like she owned the place. Silk blouse, black heels, hair curled just right. She was already "I'm looking for Mr. Mitchell," I was told. She stopped cold. I didn't move. Just sat behind the desk, fingers laced, calm, as ever. She blinked. "Frank, morning, Dana." Her mouth opened, then shut. She looked around the room, like someone might jump out and say it was a prank. What are you doing here?" "I work here." She gave a weird half, "Okay, but where's Mr. Mitchell?" "I am Frederick L. Mitchell, CEO, majority owner, and founder of Mitchell Contracting Holdings, which owns Ridge and Bailey." She didn't laugh again. Her eyes flicked to the nameplate on my desk, then to Kelly, standing behind her in the doorway, then back to me. I gestured to the chair across from mine. "Go ahead and sit." She lowered herself slowly, like her knees barely worked. I opened the folder on my desk. "We'll start with your resume." She tried to recover. "Frank, sorry, Frederick. Look, I didn't know." "I know," I said. "That's the point." Her cheeks flushed red. She shifted in the chair, crossed her legs, uncrossed them. So I went on, flipping the page. "You led the Brooksend campaign." "I did," she said quickly. "I was the senior strategist on that team." I nodded, pulled out a printed report, and slid it across the desk. "This internal report from your firm lists you as third support. Lead strategist was Jason Kempler. You issued a public statement distancing yourself from the campaign the week after it failed." Her eyes darted to the paper, then to me. "That was just PR. I was protecting the company's image." I didn't flinch. "You also claimed lead role in the Danforth merger prep." I was heavily involved. Kelly, standing silently in the corner now, handed me a second document. I opened it. Email logs. Internal org chart. You were listed as administrative coordinator. Scheduling and research. Dana sat back in the chair, eyes narrowing. "This feels personal." "It's not. It's an interview for an executive position at one of the most competitive construction firms in the region. We vet everyone." Her arms crossed. "Why didn't you just say something at dinner? Why let me walk in here like an fool? You made assumptions." "I let you." We sat in silence for a few seconds. She looked down, then forced a smile. "Okay, so you're the boss." That's great, congrats. Seriously, I'm honestly kind of impressed. I leaned back in my chair. This isn't about me. It's about your resume, your character, and your behavior before you knew who I was. She didn't have an answer for that. Just sat there, fingers twisting the strap of her purse. I could see it finally sinking in. The job, the bragging, the fake confidence, all of it built on a version of herself she never earned. I flipped to the last page in her file. Let's continue. Dana pulled out her phone the second I turned the page, thumbs flying. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I kept talking, walking her through the inconsistencies in her timeline, but her focus was gone. She glanced up now and then, pretending to listen, nodding like a kid caught in a lie. Her whole energy shifted, less defensive, more desperate. I watched her send one last message, then drop the phone in her lap, like she'd pulled a fire alarm. 15 minutes later, Kelly's voice came through the intercom. Your parents are in the lobby. They're demanding to see you. Of course, send them up. Dana sat up straighter, like backup had arrived. I took a long sip of coffee, leaned back, and waited. The door slammed open. Mom stormed in first, purse clutched like she was about to hurl it. Dad followed, jaw tight, scanning the office like it offended him. What is this? Mom said, voice sharp. You tricked us into what? I asked, not moving. Into thinking you were still our son, she snapped. This game you're playing, it's cruel. Dad pointed at Dana. You humiliated your sister. Dana looked like she might cry on cue. I stood, walked around the desk, and picked up a binder from the shelf. Let me show you something. I opened it on the conference table. Photos of job sites, crews, finished buildings, press clippings, city awards, magazine spreads, the kind of proof that didn't need explanation. Mom blinked at a full-page article. The builder behind the boom, Frederick L. Mitchell's quiet rise. My photo took up half the page. This is my company, I said calmly. The one you said wasn't a real job. The one you left out of the Christmas letter. The one you never once asked me about. Dad looked down, silent. He flipped a page, saw a group photo from a ribbon cutting. Me in the center, suit and hard hat. Mayor shaking my hand. You never said anything, Mom muttered. You never asked. She turned to me, eyes wide. You sat at that dinner table and let us look dumb. You didn't need help with that. Dana shifted in her seat. Frank, we just thought. No, I cut in. You assumed I'd peeked at drywall and garbage disposals, that I wasn't worth taking seriously. Dad cleared his throat. You still could have told us, and heard that it's cute, that I finally got serious. You never respected what I do. Not once. Silence filled the room like cement. I looked at all three of them. Same blood, same last name, standing in the middle of something they never thought I could build. You want to be mad at me? Fine, but don't pretend you supported me. Don't rewrite it now. Mom's face crumpled, like she wanted to say something soft, but I wasn't giving her the space. You didn't see this coming, I said, because you never believed I had it in me. I walked back to my desk, pulled open the top drawer, and took out a black folder. Thick, heavy. Let's talk facts, I said, dropping it on the table with a thud. Dana's head jerked back. What is that? HR's findings. I opened it, laid the first page flat. Brooks, in campaign. You claim lead strategist. Documentation, says support staff. Not just inflated, deliberately misleading. She shifted in her chair. That's that. I slid the second sheet across. Danforth, merger. You put project lead. Internal records list you as admin support. Scheduling meetings. Taking notes. Not executive level strategy. Her face went pale. And here, I said, pulling out a third set of papers. 2 HR warnings at your last firm. One for misrepresentation of work, the other for insubordination. Her eyes dropped to the table. She didn't move. I looked at my parents. This is who you've been praising. This is who you said was executive material. Mom reached for the papers, skimmed the top, then pushed them back like they burned. Dad just stared at Ridge and Bailey executive hires. Are vetted harder than government clearances. We deal in billion-dollar contracts. We don't gamble on liars. Dana's voice cracked. Frank, please, it's Mr. Mitchell here. I cut in, and you failed the vetting. Silence. Then Dad stepped forward, palms up like a negotiator. Surely we can keep this private. She made mistakes, okay? But we're family. I turned and looked him dead in the eye. That didn't stop you from disrespecting me in public for a decade. His mouth snapped shut. I gathered the papers into one neat pile and tapped them against the table. Application rejected. Effective immediately. Dana gasped, hands clutching the armrests. You can't do that. This is my career. This is my company, I said flatly, and my legal team will be forwarding these discrepancies to your current employer. They'll decide what to do with you. Her face crumpled, shoulders slumped. She covered her mouth like she was trying to hold in the sobs. Mom rushed forward, eyes wet. Frank, she's your sister. Don't destroy her life over this. She was careless. Yes, but she's young. She's 33. I cut her off. Not a kid. And family doesn't mean a free pass. Dana started crying openly, muttering, please, over and over, but I didn't budge. I pointed at the folder still on the table. This isn't me being cruel. This is the truth you've all ignored. You wanted receipts? There they are. No one spoke. Just the sound of Dana's muffled sobs filling the office. I sat back down at my desk. Steady, the same way I'd sit across from any applicant who failed. Only difference was this one shared my last name. They left my office without another word. Dana's still crying, Mom dragging her out by the wrist. Dad quiet, like someone finally cut the volume on him. I didn't follow, didn't call, didn't explain. Next morning, Kelly slid a manila envelope across my desk. Inside were HR's final notes on Dana's file, stamped and logged. She was officially marked ineligible for hire at any level. I signed the bottom line and moved on. By the end of that week, word reached us through back channels. Dana had resigned from her current job. Personal reasons, they said, but I knew better. Internal audit was already in motion. That company moved fast when it smelled liability. My phone stayed quiet. No birthday text from Mom. No Sunday check-ins from Dad. For once, I didn't feel like the one left out. I was just free of the noise. 3 weeks later, I was walking through a new build site in Philly when my phone buzzed. Kelly, again? You've seen this? She asked, not bothering to say hello. She texted me the link. An article on Construct Connect Weekly. Title in bold, across the screen. The Silent General Contractor King. How Ridge and Bailey became the East Coast's most ruthless climber. My name was all over it. Frank L. Mitchell, real name and alias both. They laid out the acquisitions, the takeovers, the expansion, called me a quiet force behind steel, stone, and smart money. I sent Kelly a thumbs up and moved on. At lunch, one of our site managers asked if the rumors were true. Did your sister really try to get hired without knowing you owned the place? I just shrugged. Family dinner got weird. He laughed. I didn't. A month passed. Leaves turned. Air got colder. The silence held. And I didn't break it. Not out of spite. I just didn't need the performance anymore. Then, late one Thursday, I got home and found a small envelope tucked between the mail. No return address. Familiar handwriting. It was from Dana. I stood at the kitchen counter and read it while the coffee brewed. No excuses, no fluff, just a page and a half of real words. She said she understood now what it meant to build something from scratch, to have no one clap for you and still keep showing up. She said the fallout at work hit her hard, but not as hard as realizing she'd never really seen me before. At the bottom, she wrote, I'm not asking for a reset. Just wanted to say, I'm sorry. You were right. I never asked. I folded the letter once and slid it into the back of my drawer. I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet, but for the first time in my life, she saw me clearly. And that was enough for now. A year later, I stood on the 33rd floor of the Madison Point build, all glass, steel, and sharp lines. We'd just wrapped the final walkthrough that morning. The crew was clearing out gear while a fresh batch of interns buzzed around with clipboards, asking questions like it was their first day of school. One of them, a kid who couldn't have been older than 20, walked up beside me and pointed out the window. You build all this? He asked, eyes wide. I nodded once. My crews did. But how'd you even get into all this? I looked out at the skyline for a second, then down at the street where I used to hand out flyers for drywall repairs. Family told me I couldn't. I said, that's usually how it starts. He laughed, not sure if I was joking. I wasn't. By noon, I was back in my office. Same top floor, same city view. Kelly walked in, holding the latest issue of Builders Quarterly. This just dropped. I wiped the dust off my hands with a shop rag and took the magazine. There it was, cover story. Built to last. The man who let his work speak. My face. Full page. No quotes from family. No mentions of drama. Just numbers. Results. Projects. People. My people. I flipped through it while Kelly gave me a quick rundown of next week's bid meetings. She paused mid-sentence. You good? Yeah, I said. Better than good. She left me with the magazine and shut the door. I leaned back in the chair, thumb running along the frame on my desk. Not a photo of my parents, not Dana, just a worn black and white of my grandfather, holding a hammer, smiling with sawdust on his shirt. He'd raised 3 kids in a 1-bedroom house, never made more than 40 grand a year, and still had more integrity than anyone I'd met in a boardroom. He never got to see this side of me, but he saw enough. He saw the kid who learned to measure twice and cut once. I set the magazine next to his photo, leaned back, and looked around the office. No need to explain myself. No point in keeping score.